Good morning, boys and girls. Today in Reader's Workshop, we are going to be talking about the importance of reading fluently. Over the past few days, we've been learning about different reading strategies to decode tricky words, the importance of rereading words, and using context clues. Today, we're going to be talking about not reading like a robot. We want to read how the author wants us to read, how the author has conveyed it in the text. So if I were to read some words on my book, I don't want to read it like a robot. I don't want to say the fat cat sat on a mat by saying the fat cat sat on a mat. I want to have a conversation. I want to read my text as if we're talking. Do you see how our voices go up and down? And that's when you read fluently. Something we can do is we can also scan ahead on the text. So, for example, the fat cat sat on a mat. When I'm talking to you, and if I tell you about the fat cat who sits on a mat, I'm not going to tell you the story and say, the fat cat sat on a mat. I'm also not going to go, the fat cat sat on a mat. You want to read it how we have a conversation, okay? One other great reading strategy on how to read fluently is you scroll ahead and you kind of look at those end punctuation marks before you even start reading that sentence. You also look at punctuation within that sentence, such as commas. So take a look right here. We have a comma down here, and we'll talk more about commas in a few weeks, but take a look. Commas right here, they break up the sentence. It's when we take a breath when we read. So if I were to read this sentence the first way, I like to play with cars, trucks, dolls, and read books. I don't think that's how the author wanted to read the story or that sentence. They also are not going to read this sentence as, I like to play with cars, trucks, dolls, and books. We're not reading like a robot. We're going to read it as if we had a conversation about what we like to do, and we're going to take a breath at that comma. So it will be read like this. I like to play with cars, trucks, dolls, and read books. We want to use those punctuations to help us with our fluency, but as we read, we're going to read like how the author wants it to sound. We also want to pay attention to punctuation marks. When we read an exclamation mark, we read it very differently than when we read a period or even a question mark. When we read an exclamation point, the author is exclaiming, they're showing emotion, they're excited. So I'm not going to read this statement like this. Yikes, be careful, said Mom. I'm also not going to read it, yikes, be careful, said Mom. I'm going to make that exclamation point show emotion. Yikes! Be careful, said Mom. We want to read it how the characters would say it. And again, that same thing right here with that question mark. I'm not going to show exclamation when I see that question mark. My voice is naturally going to go up at the end of a question. So I'm not going to read this as, do you want more ice cream? I'm going to read it in the end of the sentence. My voice is naturally going to go up because that's the question mark. So listen as I read this sentence or this question. Do you want more ice cream? Did you hear how my voice went up at the end when I read that question? When we talk naturally, our voice goes up when we ask a question. And the same thing should happen when we read a question in our text. So today, I want you to try this. When you are reading, I want you to think of our decoding strategies as well as practice reading fluently, even if it's in your head. And for my at-home friends, you could read out loud and practice your fluency as you read these different statements in your own text. So we're going to practice our reading fluently. We're going to set our timer for 20 minutes. Remember, we're working on our reading stamina. Have a great day.